An index of affluence for Filipino in the days of the American rule was the possession of an automobile. To this day, having a car next to owning a house continues to top the list of goals of every working Pinoy. The car industry of the Philippines has a rich history, and owning an automobile has always been more than just a functional transportation invention. It is a status symbol, a statement of success to be driven and flaunted on the road.
The projecting balconies and grille windows are reminders of old Spain.
Baby, you can drive my car. The Israels, Benito and Adrian, try their new French-made car on an Alsatian road. The Israels were relatives of the Ullmans, part Germans who settled in the Philippines as businessmen. Dated 1926. This obsession with cars is reflected in the current number of vehicles that were registered in the Philippines in 2017, reaching an all-time high of over 10.4 million units. The history of cars has come a long way. It is inconceivable to think that less than a century ago, in 1928, there were only 19,791 automobiles in our islands, mostly concentrated in our cities and major town centers where the majority of the good roads and thoroughfares were.
The two-wheeled carromata and carretela are the principal conveyances of the Filipinos.
Horseless carriages. Automobiles along the shopping district, Calle Escolta. 1920s. For all the years that Spain ruled the country, it had very little to show when it came to its public works records, so the history of the Philippines car industry is foggy, to say the least, during this period. The task of road and bridge building was often undertaken by their missionaries. When the Americans took over, they were aghast at what the natives had to undergo to travel from one town to another. For example, a man living in a sitio some 100 miles from the city had to equip himself with 3 horses to reach Manila, and due to extreme road conditions he could not always be sure that he could reach the city on a living horse.
Drawn bus still holds an important place.
Cruising Taft. One of the modern macadamized roads built during the American period is Calle Rizal, started in 1899, later renamed Taft Avenue. The avenue provided supreme driving pleasure for the motor enthusiast. Eventually, the Americans, through the Bureau of Public Works, embarked on an extensive national road building that saw a dramatic increase in kilometrage of all classes of roads. By the end of the 1920s, over 12,000 kilometers of new roads had been added, speeding up the transport of goods and products to key markets and spurring livelier economic activities. Thus, the car industry in the Philippines started. Rich Filipinos began discovering, too, that these new highways were also the perfect avenues on which to display himself and his grand equipage, the automobile. Nothing impacted the nation's mobility so much as the automobile, the rickety, sputtering, still imperfect machine that arrived in the final years of the 20th century. German engineer Karl Benz is credited with developing the first motorcar in his workshop in 1885, which, in a test run, covered a distance of 1 kilometer at a speed of 15 kph.